Call's running a touch late, no problem, but we can get started. So we stay reasonably on time. This is the Tuesday workshop with the growth community. We discuss all things related to entrepreneurs. We've discussed a bit about AI. We've discussed Apple Vision Pro. We've discussed mindset and the need for community and how entrepreneurs tend to be or operate as islands without assistance. And it's pretty detrimental to everybody's human existence to do that. And certainly sets, I think, entrepreneurs back and moves them towards making errors that are avoidable. So we've got the community here, and particularly the workshop today. We're going to be discussing your project, John and Kirk. John and I, getting you up to speed, Ryan, discussed for an hour and a half or so yesterday, just kind of a preliminary call about what they're up to. You've got a product, you've got a book, you've got a community, a podcast, and a community to help people who are ex-military in transition. But even beyond that it's sort of a methodology that you are developing or have developed to help just everybody get back on track with some process and intentionality. And then I think some lessons learned from your time in the military. So this is a space to just work it through. That's why it's called the workshop. Everybody brings their tools and beer and shows up, and we work it through. Informal.
Exciting.
So I'm excited. So what's the product? What are you guys excited about with the product?
Yeah. Kirk, do you want me to take it, or do you want to?
I can do it. I just wanted to add some context. So just FYI, I'm actually at the mechanics right now. So I apologize if there's some background noise at all, but just wanted to jump in and introduce myself. So Kirk Van Everen, I'm John's partner with the ULA, and I can definitely take this one up front. So I think narrowing down the scope of the question, which product, I think our headline product, at least for now, SISU Stamina. John, thanks for the prop. So SISU Stamina is it's our venture into the nootropic adaptogen realm. And we were looking for where the blue sky was. And initially it's actually started off as an energy drink supplement. Our initial venture was to try to find a sweet spot where we had experienced gaps during our time in the military. So we were looking for a healthy energy supplement that capitalized on some of the more underutilized ingredients that were backed with a pretty high degree of clinical testing with freely accessible papers you can find online. And then we basically took those papers and then reverse engineered using the values that yielded efficacy. And then once we broke into the metrics of what it took to actually create an energy drink, we backpedaled because the margins were incredibly small and it was already a very dense market. So we pivoted and we started going down the path of developing an energy chew. And we saw a lot of practical application for this across a wide spectrum of different professions. However, in defining our sweet spot, we wanted, we landed on this portable, take anywhere, go anywhere with you performance chewable tablet. And then we married it with this idea, SISU specifically, which is a Finnish word, roughly translates to unwavering determination in the face of insurmountable odds. And there's like historical backdrop to that of the Finns fighting the Russians, and just this like break point where like grit ends and then SISU takes over. And we loved that idea. So we thought that was a beautiful word to kind of encapsulate the mentality we were trying to target and encourage in a community. This like pushing in at the point of where you are on the verge of breaking. So tying the idea with the product was what we thought. We found like a very beautiful sweet spot. So, but over the years of development, and I think John, you had talked about this, I believe yesterday in your conversation. We hired and fired a couple contract manufacturers that were frankly not producing the quality of product that we were looking for. There was some quality assurance concerns. And we knew if we were going to take this and scale it, we couldn't come out the gate with something that was half-baked. So we ended up partnering with a very reputable contract manufacturer in the nutrition manufacturing realm. And then fast forward to now, that took quite a while to kind of rev that engine up, because the development process, the testing took quite a while. And up to this point, now we have the product on hand. We're building the website, and then simultaneously, while a lot of these lines of effort have been happening, we've, through tremendous amount of effort on John's end, and then additional support from the outside, we've curated and grown the podcast. John wrote this awesome book that kind of ties in and amplifies or expands upon a lot of the culture that we referenced earlier. We talk about SISU and this just mentality of breaking through and pushing into the fray of adversity and coming out of it. John did a beautiful job of expanding on that in his book. And then we've simultaneously built a blog targeting not only just the articles tailored to, say, the ingredients, but the applicability as it would stand, or as it would be for our customer base, just showing, okay, hey, this does apply to you, and here's the ways this you could see this used in your life, right? We did this really to bolster the back end SEO development on our website, as well, just kind of create depth of content in the back end. So it's been dual purposed, but that's a pretty once around the world surface level look at where we're at right now, what we're bringing to the table.
Cool. So it's essentially like a chewing gum, like an energy chewing gum, it sounds like.
So it's chewable. It's not a gum. It dissolves. It's got a tangerine flavor to it. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
crunch it up, you
eat
can suck
it.
on it. Yeah, you
Okay.
can crush it, stuck on it, etc. It's got a sweet kind of
like a mint, like a breath mint type thing.
Yeah, like a
So they're-
Mentos sort
at
of
least.
thing.
kind of, yeah, but once you crunch it, it'll fall apart. So it's not hard like you would
Right.
bite into like a I don't know, like an icebreaker. You're gonna chip your tooth. If you do that with this, you won't. It does crumble apart, but it's rigid enough where you can shake the bottle and it doesn't break, which is fortunate.
So when you guys were developing this product, and you mentioned that you've gone through a couple iterations and some contract manufacturers,
Mhm.
who's like your person, your customer? It sounds like it's pretty like the demographic is pretty wide ranging or can vary, but like who did you have in mind when you were creating this?
So funny you say this. So John and I have been digging into this while we honestly do believe that there is an incredibly wide range of application. What we should be doing at this point is tailoring and zeroing in our focus onto a specific demographic, somebody who can identify with a problem in their life. And they say, are you somebody from the Colorado area that just had a hailstorm and is, driving a BMW and, looking to refinance your house? Like, you find that niche person and you can speak to them. So we had a full conversation about this, and John and I have landed on it. And I can hand this off to John. I think you do it. If you've got the mind map to reference, that would be
Yeah.
use.
So we designed it initially for ourselves because we're both active duty combat arms in the artillery. And we were going through this cycle of 24-hour operations where you're not sleeping much, days on end. And the options that were available was grams of caffeine a day, which not milligrams, grams. Like I was taking 1.5, 2 grams of caffeine a day, plus tons of nicotine. So those types of things, I actually had it like broken down to a scale of if I took X amount of nicotine at this hour, this much, like it was very, for myself, numerically, systematically reached out so I could keep optimal performance over 1 day, 3 days a week, what have you. Obviously that's not healthy, right? 2 hours of sleep, an hour of sleep a night with that type of consumption, is not going to work for you. So as I had already exited the service, and as Kirk was still in it, we were looking at ultimately wanting to solve problems and lower the barrier to entry for other service members, veterans, and people who wanted to do cool things to be able to create value and have impact in their communities. So knowing what it was like to have served like that, we're like, what is a healthy equivalent that we could create that actually makes us stronger over time instead of costing us tomorrow to get through today? And that took us down the path of, okay, perhaps, and then also like with the constraints that we have resource-wise with energy, finances, those types of things. What is the highest level that we can punch at to solve a problem that helps to serve this community and serve these types of people who are going hard in the paint, burning on both ends of the stick, right? Just doing everything that they can. That's what took us to develop this product. It was designed for us then, now, and 50 years from now. It's something that we can take continuously without needing to stop or be concerned about negative effects. And as I mentioned, after 14 days of continued use, it actually begins to have compounding benefits from some of the primary ingredients in it, mostly in the body's response to stress and immune boosting properties. So given that, it was designed initially for us in the active duty service and then quickly expanded to endurance athletes, combat athletes, surgeons. And as we saw, we've made by word, like just by word of mouth in the last 2 months, it's very small numbers, but sold a couple cases, made a few $1,000s in revenue, and people continue to come back for more and more in some very high performing industries. So that is encouraging, though anecdotal. And the realization, and we had drawn this map of like, yeah, we're trying to boil the ocean. Jason, that was an excellent too true statement yesterday. But to scale it and put it in a phased approach for effectiveness, we're really working on bringing it down to who are we serving first? And starting with who we can speak to because of who we are, we've developed that almost to a one-liner, which is what we're currently working on. Hey, cut out you. Sorry, my 6-month-old puppy decided to try and break a door down for food. Forgive me. But we're working it to the one-liner, but essentially we realized that the first community we could speak to is veterans within roughly 1 to 5 years of having left the service, who are beginning to realize, okay, their hierarchy of needs are met, they're in a job, their family's being taken care of, they're questioning, what do I do now that the purpose of the military is gone, right? That the ideals I was pursuing maybe aren't there, the community I had maybe is not there. That's where the holistic approach of the book, the podcast, and a supplement, hey, you can start to take care of yourself and continue to press hard, comes into play. And that's as far as we've developed our initial niche to target as we launch, since we are as small as we are at the moment. And then very swiftly, obviously, we want to expand into active duty, first responders, and from there, just continue growing until we are boiling the world. But that's who we started it for, and that's where we're working it back to for that specificity.
And if I could just add on to this, John, real quick, a question that both John and I and many, many veterans face is this vacuum of fulfillment and purpose when you exit the service. I mean, you have the immense joy, as difficult as it is at times, to serve in a capacity that provides value and impacts change on like an incredibly high level. And when you leave that profession, you end up having to come to terms with the fact that it's not a straight line, regimented path back to that anymore. So a lot of people are either spin a reel. You have a veteran homelessness problem. You have a tremendous amount of people that don't handle that very well. So in building these supplemental components of our business, which include the podcast and then the book itself and the blog, this is all to encourage people that can use SISU as a tool, so that if they're seeking to claw their way back to a position where they can provide fulfillment and value to not only themselves, their families, and their communities, that at least we're providing them the tools, and then these other supplemental aspects are the compass, and they point them in the direction. So I think those paired together is, I think, where we drill down more specifically. It's not just like transitioning veterans. It's really, we want transitioning veterans who want to, with the hard fought freedom that they use their hard fought freedom to build a better tomorrow. Like, I think that's a beautiful juncture right there. So just to kind of add on to what John was saying there.
Cool. My next question would be, what's the price point for one of those canisters that you showed us?
So there's going to be a slight bump there, but in all reality, people have a much lower tolerance to stomach the cost of an energy drink. Like, if you see, you're not going to sell a $5 energy drink unless you're like at a ski resort or something.
Well, BRCC does.
Sure, but the thing is, you're never going to sell $50 energy drink, is my point. Now, granted, there's a single serving. I do understand that, but there's just different levels of intestinal, like how much they can stomach these prices. On the supplement side, they're vastly higher. People will not bat an eye for a month's supply of like Alpha Brain for $120. No one bats an eye.
So
let me just slow it down a little bit. For $72 at the standard price, how many servings do you have in each canister?
60.
60. Okay. Gotcha. And how often would somebody be taking one of the servings? Like once a day, like every day, essentially, or like all they needed is once a week? Like, what would your recommended dosage be like?
We dosed at twice a day,
Twice a day.
1 a day minimum, but we assessed that most people who would be transitioning from energy drinks and other like supplements would use it about twice a day.
Gotcha. So essentially, this is like a
supply.
Thank you. So a bottle's a month supply for $72, and you're targeting for right now. I mean, First Touch being, vets fresh out of service. It seems like you guys have both been successful in your service as well. So not to, with regard to talking about finances, how will you be marketing this, and where will you be selling the product? In like stores or online initially, Amazon?
So we are open to engaging conversations to get it into stores. Without those connections, we are starting selling it directly from our own site, and then moving to third-party fulfillment. When we re-up on the next order of it, we'd fulfill the first 1,500 units that we have. So it'd be sold online through our through our website.
Gotcha. Cool.
And part of the sales, one of the strategies we'd like to do is to steer customers towards a subscription pricing as well, which yields a higher, profit over time. So really, while we to extend the bottle, don't do more than.
Kirk, you're breaking up, bud.
How much would you sell it for the sub pricing?
The sale pricing, okay? So
the sub pricing, if you're doing subscriptions, would you just like, what's the discount like?
We're looking at 10%.
Okay.
And then, a couple of the Easter eggs we built in. So if you have like a refillable device on a consumable product, we saw that it's about a 30% lift in repeat buys. And then if you have a subscription, that significantly increases the number of repeat purchases that include. So those were two intentional methods. We have these Go Packs, which are these metal waterproof discs that hold 6 servings at a time. So you can slip in your pocket, kind of help breathe into that active take anywhere thing, but it also fulfills the need for potential, making it easier for it to be with the person and serve them. Right. So some of those ideas go in. Now, as far as marketing is concerned, up front, the primary approach we're going to take is essentially affiliate marketing. And then be very aggressive on the affiliate front. There's a lot of people who've already shown interest, and then we'd obviously have to just lean into that, make that competitive so that they're enticed to, and then begin really just the guerrilla hunting specific influencers, things like that, working to get it out from there. Once the revenue can support additional traditional marketing strategies, then begin experimenting there as well. But until then, allow the affiliate marketing to begin picking up. That's the current strategy.
Sweet. How much, what would the percentage award be for affiliates?
Yeah, so currently that is a question that we've not fully worked through yet, but we are looking at probably a tiered program of roughly 8, 10, and 12%, depending on volume metrics to try and make it more competitive. Those numbers are working numbers, but that's the rough shot.
Nice. I feel like I'm the only one asking questions here.
No, we appreciate the engagement.
Some thoughts came to me as well.
Go ahead.
First of all, Kirk, nice to meet you. Paul Edwards. I know Jonathan, but you and I are meeting for the first time. And
nice to meet you, Paul.
So this is taking me back a few years in my journey. I'm also a military veteran, experienced a lot of separation anxiety, went through a lot of anger and frustration and bitterness and all that kind of thing. And part of it was losing all of that purpose and mission and community that I had around me. And then there were things that I could look back now. I couldn't see it then, but I can look back now and see the parallels between what you're attempting to do here. Now, I didn't get it from a provider who was distinctly also a veteran, et cetera, but I got it from somebody who provided purpose, community, and an ongoing stream of content. And so I see you guys have the ongoing stream of content, which is good. You've got a book and you've got a podcast. What it feels like would be beneficial to my personality type. Now, this will be different for a guy like Jason coming out of the same thing, right? But to my personality type, I was starting to say, I wonder if there's a gap between the frontal marketing piece, which is the content that you're providing, and the back end, which is where you make the money, which is the supplement. And so I don't know if this is in your plans, and I don't know if it's applicable here. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. My thought was some kind of program that centers around coaching and community building and creating connection between people marching in the same direction. And then the supplements become an enhancer of that experience. And to give you the really brief story of what happened to me, I was in the gym 4 to 6 times a week. It was the only part of my life that made sense and brought me joy and happiness at the time. And yet I just kept adding body fat. I was like, I'm training, I'm powerlifting, I'm lifting as heavy as I possibly can, and all I get for it is more body fat and more fatigue. Come on, right? But I picked, I started getting served ads from this. Facebook heard that conversation and then started serving me ads from Vince Del Monte, who you can look up if you want to. At the time, he was still doing fitness. He does much more business coaching now. And he brought me into a community. So I bought his Tripwire program. And then I started listening to his free stuff and paying attention in his community and posting in it and being active. And I listened to his podcasts and all that. And eventually, I discovered he was doing a mastermind for fitness business owners. And even though I wasn't going into the fitness business, I joined it anyway because I knew the power of networking. And so I wanted to network with people and start my own entrepreneurial journey. And he also had developed his own line of free workout, right? Which I then readily bought from him. So I don't know if this was on your guys' agenda, but what it feels like to me might be something to consider is building a community in between the podcast and the book out on the front of the store and the supplement line, which is the back end, which is where you're going to make some money. But maybe there's more revenue opportunity in the middle between those two things by creating some kind of shared communal experience that gives this target market who is desperate for a community that gives a damn about them, right? That was the biggest thing. It's like I felt totally alone for the first 4 years I was out of service. And in fact, first 6 years, really looking back at it. And then you mix in other things like there's ambition and there's drive. And so there's entrepreneurial training of some kind of thing, some kind of thing to help them rediscover purpose faster than they would just fiddling around in their garage or whatever they're doing. Anyway, that's a thought. I don't know. It may be totally non-germane to what you're talking about here, and maybe there's a much shorter line to get that supplement out into the marketplace. And if that's the case, so be it. But that's my thoughts.
Yeah, given that, and just to provide further context, we don't lack ambition. So it's a matter of trying to sequence the efforts out. And there's two initiatives, one that I put on ice right before or right about when we merged Source Solutions and ULA, and with what Kirk and I have right now, and that is the Universal Learning Approach. That's what ULA stands for, university, which would be a series of online courses that are available. I have one in the low ready to be able to apply for an introduction to jiu-jitsu course that I helped create with the gym that I train at, the ownership there. But I'm currently keeping them as an ally, as a business ally that we can advertise as an ally and have our businesses point to each other. So on the one hand, there's the ULA Allies, which has it's a business to business network, essentially, where we advertise, hey, we're like-minded, oftentimes veterans, not always, but people who want to build a brighter tomorrow and be part of the solutions in the world. Check these guys out if you need a service. And frankly, Paul, you're on my list to reach out and see about if you were interested in that, but we can talk later for what you're doing. So there's that element. Now that's the business to business. On the business to customer side, how do we create that community? About 150 days ago, I started a group called The Forge, which Kirk's part of. And we have a total of 7 of us now. And essentially it's a small group community that allows for you have to contribute every day, showing that you're exercising sovereignty over your day, and communicate with one another. If you fail to contribute, you get excommunicated. There is an ability to earn your way back in. That does not cost money. But so that idea has been being worked on now for roughly 150 days. And I had an exploratory conversation with one of our mutual acquaintances, and who's in that group, who's interested in kind of taking that on for us to look to scale it. So the framework's very simple, but how does one scale it? It'd probably be a very not hierarchical means of scaling it. Hey, here's the platform, probably have like 2 community meetings a week, kind of like we're doing here, right? One for like the forge masters, if you will. Those who are leading forges can come on, kind of have a think tank of problems they're running into. And then those who are interested in starting it and see what can be done there. Now that would be a great gateway, like this is, for people to jump in, have conversations, be part of a larger community, and then create their own micro community with those who are close to them, who are pursuing this type of lifestyle, right? That would be the business to customer side, currently in the very early research and development stage. And then the business to business side is essentially a networking look at these awesome companies who are like-minded board for now. But having them early allows for the opportunity of momentum, since they are a lightweight creation, to later on, when we have the resources and ability to apply more focus, look at monetization, further resources that can be offered, those types of things. But that's kind of what's in the background on those.
Yeah. That's good. That's what I was looking for there. And sort of what I had in mind was like, there's going to be a segment of whatever market you pursue that is relationally driven. And so just like I made those purchases because of the affinity, the proximity I had been able to develop with Vince Del Monte. Once I used one of his programs and it worked, I wanted to know everything he knew. Right. And so it's the same thing. It's like once you get a guy in there who is really struggling and pulling up thorns and thistles everywhere he goes, and then you come along and solve a problem for him immediately. Now you've got a really close bond, and you can offer him all those other things in your universe as well.
Okay.
How many you guys have been working with other people I mentioned that you had a number of cases already sold. Like in your list or in your circle of influence, people that you know that would buy from you, how many people do you think that would be upon like your first major release? Like if you were to send out like an email list, how many people do you have on that email list?
Email list is very, very small. We just got the forms linked up for that. So we probably have a dozen people on the email list. And so that's something we're going to work to grow through our social media channels and things like that, where we do have greater connection. Hey, please sign up for this. So that when we do that launch, that list is larger. But by hitting all of our channels, there's probably, I know it's small, like that inner community is probably around 300 to 500 people between the two of us, maybe 3 to 8. And then those who'd be motivated to take action at that point, I'd guess somewhere between 50 and 100 on launch. So,
Okay.
so as we're currently posed, I think it's fairly grassroots, and that's where having the ability to buy in early and immediately earn and contribute to the creating of this thing has been very attractive to the anecdotal conversations that I've participated in, that I'm aware of that Kirk's participated in as well.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. John, with regards to like your social media, the message that you're putting out there, I mean, you guys already talked about who you're aiming for with regards to your demographic, at least your initial demographic. What's the message? Like, if you were to start putting out posts, like what would these posts look like to those people?
So that's fair to say a work in progress, because until now, we would say like working professionals who want to create a brighter tomorrow. That's been broad, and as we're working to define it down, we're working on that. But essentially, we're working on the specific linguistics of how to best sell it. But the sexiest version we have so far is, if you're a guardian of freedom yesterday, then you can be a builder of tomorrow today, right? And then there's questions like, have you left the service and it's not how you thought it would be, then let's talk. Those types of opportunities are how we can see like the communal approach. And then, are you going through a big change? Let's talk, right? On the more information side, the SISU Stamina is a lot easier to sell, or easier to do, because like, do you need to get stuff done? Do you need more energy? Are you tired of sacrificing your health? Right? Like those types of questions, with the supplement being the response, is a lot simpler. But that's kind of the space we're working in. Kirk, if I missed anything. But
no, I just think that if we're talking specifically about the military, John, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And this is kind of how we would tailor that approach to that very individual community. However, the network that's been built through conversation and interaction throughout the podcast, and just us sharing our journey over the past couple of years, we have several different industries and several different demographics, which is really what contributed to us kind of thinking, okay, this is pretty widely applicable. We're seeing interest across a lot of different ways. So the messaging would be tailored to the individual demographic and the problem that they're facing. We find a lot of people that really just have an open-ended need. They just have a lot on their plate and they're exhausted, and they don't always have a can of energy drink, but they can have this go pack in their back pocket, in their gym bag, in their hiking bag. And there's so much opportunity to spread into these other areas. Up front, yes, we're going to tailor it to this specified community within transitioning veterans. But really beyond that, we have a lot of things in our back pocket that we're like, okay, when the time is right, and if we see, this particular community over here to the left is really responding to this more, and at a more rapid pace than we were expecting, then we can certainly tailor it that direction.
Was the first response that you got from a veteran, the order that Jonathan mentioned earlier, was that a veteran community?
So when it's honestly, John, you can go ahead.
Do you mind, Kirk?
No,
it's honestly been like frustratingly diverse, because we can speak to who we are, right? So as far as telling our story, we can speak to that. Some of the communities that have given us an overwhelming positive response on the holistic work, and specifically the supplement, is the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community and the combat sports. I've had a lot of very positive feedback from that population, from my involvement in it and with them utilizing it, because it works well in high heart rate environments. So the same has been true of endurance athletes that we know. The same has been true of businessmen that Kirk has networked with on his side. The same has been true of surgeons. So it's like we have people in the medical industry, in the business sector, in the ultra endurance sports and combat sports sectors, and parents who just want to be taking care of themselves as they're taking care of the kids. So we kind of have like those 5 competing things where they're saying, we want it now, give it to us. And there's multiples of those people in each of those areas. And then we also have our active duty service members that we're still connected with, who are doing it. So it's almost like the community conversation piece seems to be for those who are going through big life changes, going through some sort of an existential crisis. They want to change something in their life. That's where the information is really the most applicable for the book. they want to improve their life. That's where the book and podcast come in. But then the supplement is for those high performers. Oh, and first responders is the other group. So it's where those high performers who are pushing hard, try it, love it, want it. And we're getting that positive feedback somewhere in the multiple of like 3 to 6 people in each of those areas. So it's like, it's all anecdotal, but it's a surprisingly warm reception. So then the logic that brought us to the information I've shared so far was yesterday we're going through, well, what story can we authentically speak to? And I shared that already. And then, I can also speak to being a parent. We can speak to being athletes in these things. You can speak to a lot of them. But like one of the things that we've been seeking is like, how can you draw a single through line to say, here's our one liner of who we're serving? Because ideally, frankly, it would be the single unifying element that ties those people together, which is what we've been seeking for the last 3 years, but struggle to articulate in a way that impactfully grabs the person who sees it and says, hey, that's me. So if we could identify that and serve this more diverse background of people, but they're unified by that one thing, if we could uncover that, which we're seeking, then that would allow us to truly pursue the spirit of the person that we're wanting to serve, opposed to being boxed off or cordoned off to, 27 to 35-year-old white male, for example, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the struggle.
Jason, I'm thinking here of the journey you and I have been on, where we're really trying to get to the psychographic target author rather than the demographic. That's what this is making me think of. And not that this is easy, but Jason I've been surprised how quickly he can get to the root of what this is. We've had a lot more meaningful conversations towards what we're really looking for in terms of an author. It's not that we don't mention the demographics, but we really dial in. If we're talking about who we're after, we're talking about their psychographic qualities and characteristics. So, I'm sorry,
go ahead. This goes back to boiling the ocean, right? And some of the stuff is distraction because it's not urgent or necessary now. Because you have 2 lines of business that you're talking about. You're talking about the product line of business, then you're talking about the community/coaching line of business, and those scale at vastly different rates and have different longevities to them. A coaching business is not going to sell in the middle of the night, whereas a product will. And the coaching, it's getting commingled because of your desire to serve people rather than your desire to sell a product. And what I would encourage you to do is think about them in 2 separate, there are actually probably 3, but there's 2 separate types of businesses here. And one comes before the other. And that's where I think you got to be really brutal about saying no to the coaching thing. And here's why. If you're going to go the coaching route, it scales slow and it's high touch, which is going to take a lot of your time. You're going to have to develop a lot of stuff you do not have developed now. It's going to be highly personal, and you're going to have these, like personality issues. Your idea, for instance, you've got this tribe that you developed with a handful of people who subscribe to the idea that I'm going to check in every day and you're going to oust me if I don't. That's not the majority of people. It's people with your particular background, and that might be valuable for a small group of people, but it is not valuable for the whole. And these are my own thoughts, right? So take them for what they're worth. But the product has a very open-ended potential customer in a lot of different markets, a lot of different niches, and with people that you will not like, and they will not like you, but they will like your product. So this transition from people love my product to maybe doing something else is going to be a fraction of people. So don't chase the fraction, go after the big market. You already have a product. It already sells. People already like it. It has an unknown market. There's hypotheticals out there, but you really don't know where to go with it. Ex-military, and there's value in that, but don't start the community for it because there are already communities developed for that. Instead, I think what I'm seeing here is that your path, and I think you're really right on the right track, is that you need to focus or have the opportunity to focus on this affiliate thing, right? So the affiliates will be sometimes the groups of military members. It might be groups for police. Like Fridays, I have this call called Passionate Policing, which I've been invited to, and it's folks who are interested in mental health in their police officers. That's what it is, or people who are connected somehow. I was invited to it simply because I've got a friend who's a police officer and he had some mental health things. So I was invited as a friend / confidant, right? That would be a group. But they're not going to probably join another group, and you don't want to join that group. They have their own tribe. In fact, it came up in that the guy who runs the Passionate Policing thing, he started a group for firemen, and the firemen want to hang with firemen. Police want to hang with police. They do not want to talk to each other. They've lived different lives. They have different ideas about, where the way things should be sometimes. And yet they have similar struggles. So your similarity is, I want an alternative to, I want a natural, right? I want a natural alternative to to energy to replace my toxic behaviors, the stuff that I shouldn't be taking. That's the only common ground you have right now. So what I would do is Ryan asked what your email list is like. Focus on selling the heck out of that product via affiliates. Affiliates could be gyms. They could be the Passionate Policing thing. It could be ex-military folks, the mental health groups around that. And you're going to sell it because of your story, like we talked about yesterday, John, because if you don't sell it with your background, with your story, you're just one of many people who are trying to do this, but people will connect with your story. I connected with your story. And it takes a bit of work to get me to connect with somebody's story. So because it's like everybody's got a story. But you spoke from your heart. That's going to connect with people. So sell your product via groups that already exist. Meanwhile, give people who buy your product an opportunity to end users, not wholesalers, right? But end users, an opportunity to get a future discount, perhaps, or a rebate or something like that. Use a rebate. Use a rebate. It's for particular reasons, but use a rebate via giving them your contact information or joining a Facebook group or something like that. Some place where you have the opportunity to connect with them, and then you can start sampling these ideas, which are just they're these big pie in the sky. Hey, here's a principle which has been really valuable to me. What do you guys think of it? And really what you're doing is you're facilitating a conversation. You can then mine that information and figure out what's next for you. But what's next is what is absolutely not what's now, because you don't have the resources. It's a complete distraction. And the last thing you want to do is, if you've got, let's say you had 5 hours today to devote to something, 100% you should be devoting 5 hours to figuring out who's going to buy your product and going off and selling them, rather than who's going to have a group that you need to talk to tomorrow because they have mental health issues.
I also want to add, and so here's some issues and then some opportunities I have in mind. Of course, this is just my opinion. Some really great things about your product is that, just looking out on Amazon right now, just doing a search for energy supplements from men, chewables, there's nothing really out there. So you guys are kind of pioneering this type of supplements, type of product, which I think is great, but it also can be challenging in the sense that no one's really ever heard of it. So a lot of what you are going to need to do is lean on the groups that you're already working with, that you're already a part of. And rather than necessarily like approaching affiliates, approach your best end user customers, have them write reviews, sing your praises, post on their own social medias, and really just helping get that word of mouth, as John had said, like doing a grassroots sort of thing, and really working hard to build that community opinion with regards to any group that you're deciding to approach first. Considering which those people are going to be they're going to be the ones who are trumpeting your product and really helping introduce that product at a minimal price for you guys to the rest of their communities and then extensively out throughout the world. The big issue that I have now, you mentioned like 2 ways that you sell the product. There's that canister that you showed me that had 60 supplements. Am I right, John?
Mhm.
And then you mentioned a Go Pack. So I didn't really understand what the Go Pack was. Is that just like a pack that's like smaller in size?
The Go Pack is an accessory. So you put the chews from the container that you buy into the Go Pack so that it can go with you anywhere at that point. Because you don't always want to carry 60 rattling chews around with you everywhere you go. But you can take this small thing and stick it in your pants pocket. So it's a supplement. It's not like we're not selling it with chews inside of it like you would have like a stick of gum or something.
Gotcha.
This is a shotgun issue, right? You want to scare up the birds, and wherever the birds scare up, that's where the birds are. Right? And you kind of know where they might be, and you're learning more as you go on. Money is going to fund all sorts of future good endeavors. So I go back to connect, have ability to sell your product directly, connect with other military members or ex-military, the people that you know, and other people who are interested in these benefits, and say, hey, I've got this product and here's why I made this. Here's my heart for you. And here's, this is an alternative to all the other stuff, and I'm using it all the time. If you want to, you can buy it directly. Hey, if you want to make some money, you can become an affiliate. But don't hit hard on that. Hit again, you're scaring up the birds. When the bird comes up, shoot it. And then open up, connect directly with your end user, open up a place for discussion where you can share your heart, and then listen to the discussion to find out what's next. You've got it in those 3 things, you have months of work.
Mhm.
And if you do it in that order,
No.
you'll have money, which will accelerate things in the future, and clarity, I think, outside of the echo chamber. You've already done a good job, I think, of seeking out new information, and now you're part of the community, and you can always ask questions in the community too.
I think it's a cool product. I think outside of trying it myself, just based on what you got, your story, based on like the look of the bottle that you showed us, I think it's a cool product. My last question would be, after this product becomes a success for you guys, what's next? Would it be another product? I know we're talking about community stuff. What do you think?
So for us, our long-term objective is to be a solutions-based company. We're not trying to be a supplement company. We're not trying to just be a single product company. This ends up being a cash cow for us. It is just going to be a means to provide revenue for us to find solutions for other people, problems that are either not being addressed or being inadequately addressed. So we're building the engine, and this is going to be what takes us much, much further. We have, like John said, there's no lack of ambition. We're going to expand, and ultimately down the road, we want to be in a position where, obviously this is a full-time thing, but we can form communities of people who are in a very like-minded capacity, want to help inject value and solve problems domestically and even internationally. So that's down the road, but like SISU's, we're all in on SISU, but that's phase 1 of many phases, and we're very excited to kind of keep going.
Yeah, so as we gain the means, right, attack more aggressive problem sets, but for now we do have a number of additional follow-on supplements, should this one be successful, that we can lean into, or we can explore other avenues. But it's been an awesome hour, guys. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to your success. It was a great conversation. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, good times.
Hey, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to the next time.
Yeah, super excited to have you guys with us. This is the workshop. It happens every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Central. Happy to have you guys part of the community. If you got more questions, drop it in the community. If you want to connect with either one of us, any of us individually, happy to do that as well. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Peace out, guys.
All right. Bye, guys.